blacks are the chosen race, what about white people?
I would have to ask you that. What about white people?
I'm asking. We're both human beings. Blood that runs through your veins is equally as red as the blood that runs through mine. Do you think you're in some way, shape, manner, or form superior to me?
Of course.
You are. So all black people are superior to white people?
By God's own ordination, yes.
Mm-hmm. Then why in our society, for example, is the black race or African Americans experiencing so many problems that they're experiencing?
Well, you know the answer to that, and the...
No, I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question.
The cynical tone in your voice doesn't erase the fact that you know. It's due to the wickedness of white America. White people all over the world, white people all over the world have gone into the house of black people, brown people, and red people, robbed them of a knowledge of self, taken their land over, renamed the land, colonized them, enslaved them, and put them under their yoke and way. So whites are in the superior position, no matter what the social, political, economic, or religious order, because of the wickedness and the underhandedness of the white man the world over.
Sir, but not all white people are evil, wicked, or endorsing. Sir, I have never enslaved any human being. Let me finish my point now. I've never enslaved any black person in my life, nor would I endorse that or support that. I certainly look and view the slavery or the history of slavery in this country, for example, as evil, reprehensible, against the will of God in our society. Many white people fought for the freedom of slaves. Many people risked their lives, as did Harriet Tubman, during the Underground Railroad to see to it that that evil was changed in our society, and I think that was a good thing. I think when you look at the marches of Martin Luther King, white, black together marched for equal justice in our society. Certainly, you're not going to impugn the whole race of white people, are you?
What I am going to say after such a strong statement is that whenever there is any sign of what even appears to be righteousness and that which appears to be a spirit for justice and fair play and fair dealing, I am not one who would blanketly criticize that. If indeed that is your spirit and your personality, and if indeed you can point to many others who are that way, then certainly I would respect that.
Then why should I have respect for you if you don't equally respect me in that vein, if you look at yourself as far superior to me?
I am not one who would just look at myself far superior to you, but let me point this out to you. White people, you should be having this show with one of your own. White people teach that they are the father of medicine, the father of music, the father of history, the father of philosophy, the father of the sciences, the father of all of the disciplines of the world. I think that is a very ethnocentric and a very racist, white supremacist view. They teach us that angel food cake is white, devil's food cake is black. You wear white to weddings and you wear black to funerals. It's not good to lie, buddy, but if you must lie, it's all right if you tell a little white lie. If one is the black sheep of the family, blackball you, blackmail you. If I go to the pool room for a little game of pool, you got a white shiny ball on the table, knocking the hell out of the black ball, the brown ball, the red ball, and all of the balls of color. And the worst ball on the table is the black ball. If I go to church, you've got a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale-skinned white Jesus, when the Bible says that Jesus is a man with nappy hair and black skin. So white supremacy runs throughout every phase of white society the world over. So my position on this show this morning is not to establish some grandiose and way out black supremacy, but to fight white supremacy and meet it head on.
And do you think most Americans, especially white America, is racist and against you to the degree that you're...
Of course, most white Americans.
What percentage would you say?
The United States government boasts about the fact that it is a government where where the majority rules and the minority has to go along with the majority.
So what degree of Americans...
And so if you have an overwhelming majority of white folks who are so fair and good-hearted in America, why haven't your overwhelming majority of white folks stepped forward to do something about the wretched condition of black people here in America?
Oh, haven't we made some strides and turns about?
No
strides since 1960, none at all.
No, let me say why I mean that.
I would like you to explain that.
During Reconstruction here in America, there was a civil rights bill passed at that time. Black people held all kinds of political positions, and it looked like a period of political a turn after slavery for black people in this country. There was even a voters' rights bill, and all of that was passed. But when white folks got sick of that, they blocked the doors of Congress. They drove black people out of all the political positions. And so 100 years after that civil rights bill, another civil rights bill had to be formed and fashioned. Now we're debating and arguing with George Bush over the voters' rights bill. We already had one. That means it wasn't worth the paper that it was written on. Look at all the treaties that the white man signed with our brothers and sisters, the Red Indians. Treaties that would wrap around the globe and then some, and broke every treaty that he signed with the Indians. We can't trust that anymore. Can't trust it.
Let me ask you this. Why is it then that so many... Let me ask you a question. Why is it then that so many African Americans today are making it in an inclusive society? Why are they becoming successful? Why are they prospering if America were as racist as you're describing it today? I'm talking about mainstreams like Oprah Winfrey, the multitude of talented black African American athletes in our society, the talented African American business people in our society, the Colin Powells, the Arsenio Halls, and the list, the Bill Cosbys, the list goes on and on and on. Are these all Uncle Toms? Have these people sold out? How would you describe and categorize these successful blacks in our society?
These are very God-gifted and very talented black people. But they are also, Mr. Hannity, exceptions to the rule. They do not reflect, nor do they represent the poor, suffering masses of black people.
Well, why aren't you there? Why aren't you there helping them instead of creating this animosity and hatred and race divisiveness?
We create no animosity and hatred.
It's not animosity. You're not creating animosity to white people listening to this program when you arrogantly step on your high horse and say that you're superior to whites?
I'm not concerned with what white people think about what I'm saying on your program, nor am I concerned about what you say and what you think. But let me point this out to you.
Yes, sir.
Over 20 years ago, President Lyndon Baines Johnson organized the Kerner Commission. And the Kerner Commission, this prestigious pristine presidential commission, was to go out and study throughout America and determine the main problems in America dealing with the races. They came back with conclusive proof to the president and to the White House that the number one problem in America today is white racism. They said there are two major situations here. Two Americas, one black and one white, separate and unequal. 20 years later, today, the Kerner Commission has reconvened, and they say that the problems of yesterday are worse today than they were yesterday. It makes no difference that black people are mayors and that black people are public elected officials. The masses of black people are still catching hell, and if our condition is worse, in spite of all of these, what appears to be surface window dressing gains, then it really means nothing.
Oh, so these people are just flukes, just very talented people that have
Well, I'm not going to sit here and let some devil attempt to put me in a position
I'm a devil?
where I'm criticizing my own people.
Am I a devil?
You're attempting some devilishment on this program.
I'm
you
a devil?
Want me to speak against my sister Oprah Winfrey. You want me to speak against my brother Bill Cosby.
No, sir.
You think I'm some lightweight, so you want to push me in a corner to say something against them. That is a devil who would try that.
Oh, so I'm a devil.
You're acting like
I'm
one.
Acting
Are
like
you
a devil.
one?
No, sir, I'm not a devil.
Well, don't act like one.
So I'm not acting like one. No, sir, let me tell you. Let me tell you, sir, I admire the talents and abilities and the contributions of African Americans, wherever they might come from. See, my vision, sir, of America is far different than yours. As you see, I see this.
It should be.
But what I see, I don't think so. I think America is meant to be an inclusive nation where all people can prosper and be successful.
It didn't start out that way.
Well, if you let me finish my thoughts, I allow you to speak uninterrupted here.
Certainly, go right ahead.
What I'm trying to point out to you is that if America is going to be inclusive, if we're going to create this avenue or window of opportunity for all people, what I would like to see, instead of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or some of the racist bigotry that you're spewing on the program today, I would much prefer that we see black, white, decent, good, wholesome Americans that believe in values that are strong, family-oriented, that will keep this nation strong, going forward, working together, and becoming successful. If you don't share that vision, you would much prefer the separatist vision.
Would you like for me to speak on what I do feel, rather than you be my spokesman?
I'll tell you what, as soon as we
Are you my national assistant?
Would you like me to be?
No, sir.
Considering I'm a devil, you wouldn't want that to happen. We'll take a break.
I wouldn't want a devil as my national assistant.
I'm a devil. We'll come back. We'll talk more with Khalid Abdul Muhammad. He's a national assistant to Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam. And we'll open up the telephone lines this morning as well if you'd like to be on the program from Huntsville, all of Madison County, 830-2277, 830-2277. Toll free this morning if you're on cellular 1 at star 770. And you can join us from Limestone County, 232-3911. WVNN News Talk time now is 10:20. We'll take a break. We'll come back. More of the Sean Hannity Devil program coming up next, right here on AM 770 WVNN. Now, good morning, and thank you for listening to AM 770 in the Sean Hannity program. Some categorize this as the Devil's program as we talk about the issues each Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday. You can join us 2 to 4 in the afternoon as we have our in-depth dialogue and discussion about the issues of the day. Khalid Abdul Muhammad joins us, National Assistant to the, you don't like to call him Reverend, but to Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of
Minister
Islam.
Louis Farrakhan.
Minister Louis Farrakhan. And we're talking during the break that you find it interesting. What do you want for the Nation of Islam? You want a separate nation, is that right?
We want freedom and independence, however that can be achieved. If indeed white people are willing to go through the painful and painstaking process of mental and spiritual and moral and ethical change, then indeed we as black people, since we've been here in America, we have fought for many years to be included in the mainstream of white America. Now we have determined that as God's hand is stretched out of judgment against America, that we must do something for ourselves and we must build a nation of our own. That is not to say that it is to be a nation so separate until we want to rule over white people. We have no desire to rule white people. We want to express Kujichagulia, or self-determination, over our own destiny. If we have a hospital and white people are ill or need attention, they would be welcomed into our hospital, and we wouldn't use them as guinea pigs the way they use us in their hospitals today. If you need a loan and you're qualified and you came to the black bank, we wouldn't redline the districts the way you've done against us. If in our political structure we wouldn't set up gerrymandering and all of the redistricting in our system, we would have fairness. We could never treat white people the way they treated us, because God just didn't make us that way. He just didn't give us that kind of heart.
Let me ask you a question. If I were to say all blacks were drug addicts because of the actions of the few, would you find that offensive? Because there are black drug addicts in our society.
I don't find anything offensive that white people say.
Okay,
but if it would be all right with me.
Okay, let's say a black person said that. Would you find that offensive?
No, sir. If a black person said that, I would know that they have been robbed of a knowledge of self. They've been brainwashed by your people, and we would take the time and the love and give some care and sensitivity to the situation to try to open their eyes.
Well, the point I'm trying to get to here is that the bottom line is the way you talk about white people, you put them all in this one category as if they're all racist, they're all against black people. You're imputing the character of the white race.
I believe that there are some white people who do good.
You do?
I believe that I don't know if they are good, but I do know that there are some white people who do good. But let me say this, you've got to understand the sensitive nature of this. When white people came to America, they didn't just come in showing open hatred for the Indian and just killing Indians and mowing them down. They came in smiling at them, winking at them. They pretended that there was loving, caring, and sharing. The Indians taught them agriculture, taught them of their customs and ways. They even intermarried. But as soon as the Indian dropped his guard and the white man learned the ways of the Indian, they destroyed the Indians in a mass genocide plot. Now the original owner of this nation is selling moccasins and blankets on a reservation because they trusted the white man. When the white man came to Africa, he didn't just come in killing black people and showing open, bitter hatred. He came in as a friend and a sincere advisor. He came in and we rolled out the carpet for him. We gave him the best of our society and our world, and now we are held captive as slaves inside of America.
So the blacks and the Indians and the minorities in our society of angels of light and the wicked white people have always decimated any other race besides themselves. That's what you're saying?
I told you, if you're not my national assistant, you're certainly my Huntsville spokesman.
I'm your Huntsville spokesman.
I couldn't have said it any better than that, John.
That's your viewpoint on that.
That's your viewpoint, and I like it.
You like that?
I like it.
It's not my viewpoint, though, because what I hear in you is somebody who's extremely racist, biased, and bigoted. And
I'm not extremely racist, biased, and bigoted.
Well, you are racist.
You cannot compare me with the Klan.
I certainly could. Absolutely.
No one has ever enslaved the Ku Klux Klan or David Duke or the skinheads. No one has ever robbed them of their name, their language, their religion, their culture, God. No one has done anything to them.
Let me ask you a question. How long are you going to stay in the past? How long are you going to stay in the past? When are you going to move forward?
In the present. I just gave you the report from the Kerner Commission. We also have here the National Urban League, State of Black America. Jet Magazine just did a study that was done across the nation after 28 years, how much of Dr. King's dream has come true, and studies are being done all over. But if you're sitting here in a one room in Huntsville, Alabama, sitting behind a microphone being cynical and racist and bigoted every day, then you don't know what reports are out there in the world.
You're saying
I'm in another city almost every day.
What city are you in? Oh, you travel around the country every day?
All over, but I'm from New York.
You're from New York. That's where I'm from. But the bottom line is, I want to ask you this. Why is it then that some African Americans are making it in our society? They're very talented. They're making contributions. Why do you impugn the character of them? Why not talk about the opportunity?
I have never impugned the character of them. That's your devilish way to attempt to say that that's
my
what
devilish way.
That's what it is.
So this is incredible. Let me ask you this. What do you think is going to be the future of race relations in this country? You think we're going to have race wars? And are you going to be at the heart of it?
Oh, what kind of silly little childish question is that?
I'm asking, if you think whites are the devil and they've done all these terrible things, do you want to go to war against the white people?
I believe that there are some whites. I don't know how good their heart is, but I do know that there are some whites who do good.
Do you think that whites can get to heaven?
Some whites. I know that let me finish my point. I know that there are some whites who are standing up against their own people for the injustices that have been perpetrated against black people and dark people throughout the earth. But I can't trust them the way the Indians trusted them, the way my forebears trusted them in Africa. Even if I closed my eyes, I could never close both eyes. I'd have to always keep one eye open.
Let me tell you something, sir, because I am an Irish American. My grandparents came here from Ireland in the early part of this century at a time when in Boston and New York and in Philadelphia it said outside of almost every shop, Irish Catholic need not apply. Within my family history, there is a large degree of racism and hatred and bigotedness that my family had to go through.
That's white-on-white crime.
Okay, and there's plenty of black-on-black crime in our inner cities today.
Nothing to compare with the millions that white people have killed in their major wars.
And you are blinding yourself to the truth, sir.
The white mass murderers, the white serial killers, and the gays and the...
And black selling each other, black selling other blacks drugs and shooting each other's and drive-by shootings and Crips and Bloods.
Robbed of a knowledge of self by white people.
Blaming white people for their problem. Blaming white people for their problem.
When you take a people and completely destroy them, what else do you expect? Nobody ever destroyed you, but you murder millions of people and drop bombs.
I've never murdered anybody, sir. I've never dropped a bomb on anybody, sir.
You're trying to drop bombs on this radio.
Sir, I'm not trying to drop bombs. You're just
too light.
You're bombastic little statements of devils.
Come on out with it.
What's about? You got a problem? You're getting upset? You want to calm down?
Come on out with it. You're just stumbling and fumbling.
I'm not. You're an ignorant fool.
We are ignorant fools, if I'm one, because you are certainly complimenting me.
But I
came in the spirit that you're giving me. I attempted to talk to you in the hall.
To
get you to turn this volume down, to let you know what my true spirit is. But I said you continue to conduct yourself as a devil. And I said to you, as long as you do that, that's what you'll get from me.
Let's go
now, if you want a more intelligent conversation and exchange, I will give you that.
I'll tell you what, why don't you talk to the caller?
Sean is a devil. I will, but I said that Sean is acting like a devil on the program, but he is not.
The whiter...
Sean is a devil. He just said I'm a devil. You think I'm a devil, Todd?
I don't think so. But listen.
I mean, look, if I'm the devil or if I'm the epitome of evil, so you should...
I don't believe you're the epitome of evil.
I'm just
You're a lightweight devil.
I'm a lightweight devil. I'm a lightweight evil devil here, so...
Interracial marriage, sir?
No, sir.
Are you against that, Todd? Do you believe interracial marriage is wrong, morally?
Well, I don't think it's wrong.
Let me ask you, what do you think about what the Khalid Abdul Muhammad is saying on the program today? Do you find it offensive? Do you find it shocking? Do you think he's going to be at the forefront of a major racial war? Are you going to be? Do you think he's going to be at the forefront of a racial war in our society? What do you think about the hatred that he's spewing?
Well,
I'm spewing love for my people.
yeah, but
I'm not necessarily anti-white. I'm pro-black.
Hatred towards the black race.
I'm against anyone who's against us, sir.
I'm not against you. I would like to see you being included.
Why don't you conduct yourself much better on
Why don't you stop calling me a devil and evil and all these things? I think we'll get along a lot
that way, I will stop calling you.
Sir, by your definition, it's a devil. Sir, I don't go around calling you a devil. I've treated you respectfully on the program.
Of course you have not.
That's a lie. Todd, what do you think? Do you think this type of hatred, do you think that's going to create animosity between the races? What do you think about African Americans?
Todd, have you heard hatred? That's the question.
Todd, have you heard hatred?
Did you hear me say that we don't want to rule over white people? We just want to rule ourselves?
Did you hear him call white people evil?
I called you evil.
You also called white people and impugned the whole white race.
You're a representative of the white race today.
And every white...
And a poor one at that.
Every white person is a representative of the white race, and according to you, they're all racist.
All are representatives, and some attempt to conduct themselves much better than you are today.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that, Todd?
Well, I tell you, he says that that the black race is superior and intellectually, superior to suppress.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't believe that.
Who's superior, Todd?
I don't think either one are superior.
Nothing is equal in the universe, Todd.
So he thinks blacks are superior to whites. Do you believe that?
We're the father and mother of civilization. We're the father and mother of music and science and law and government and mathematics and morality and ethics. We're the father and mother of the disciplines of the earth, but now the history books and the textbooks all are lying that the white man has put out there.
So what you're saying is that black people are just oppressed and
lied on.
If you relieve the oppression, then they'll rise above.
Well, the white man doesn't have to relieve the oppression. We're not asking him to do that. God is going to take the oppression and bondage and the yoke of bondage that the white man has placed on us off of us. We don't want to give him that much power that we have to sit around and wait for the white man to remove the oppression from us.
Todd, thanks so much for the call. We appreciate it. Abdul Muhammad, as we talk with this lightweight, devilish talk show host, Sean Hannity. Back to the phones we go. Bill from Huntsville, you're live on AM 770. Hello.
Hi. I'm white, and I'm a pastor of a church in Huntsville, and we spend a lot of time, lots and lots of time out in the streets of Huntsville, in the housing projects and the streets, deal a lot with young black Americans, and I feel in my heart as a Christian, as a pastor, that God really wants to do something amongst the black race. I see a lot of, just as Mr. Muhammad, as that his name says, I see a real breakdown in the home, a breakdown in the family, a total collapse. And I think personally the problem is illegitimacy. The problem is a moral collapse, and what I see as a Christian and what God is calling people to is taking responsibility for their lives. And the Bible calls people to repentance, not pointing the finger at other races. And I feel as a pastor that that the only reason that the nation of Islam and demagogues like that have any voice at all and any power at all is the failure of the black church to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ in the neighborhoods and in the streets. And if they would do that, and call black people to take responsibility for their lives through the power of God, that the Nation of Islam would have no authority and no moral voice at all. That's what I feel. That's all I really got to say. If you want to address that or answer that, he can.
Okay, would you like to address that, Mr. Muhammad?
No, sir. We can get to the next caller.
I appreciate that. We got to take a break. We'll come back. One open line, 232-3911. If you'd like to be on the program today, 232-3911. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Good morning, and thank you for listening to AM 770 in the Sean Hannity program. We're here live Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 in the afternoon, Saturday, 10 a.m. till 12 noon, as we talk about the issues of the day. Khalid Abdul Muhammad joins us, National Assistant to the Minister Louis Farrakhan. And we're taking your telephone calls this morning, 232-3911. Reverend Farrakhan has said on occasions that Judaism is a gutter religion. Do you believe that?
Minister Farrakhan has never said that Judaism is a gutter religion.
I heard it myself on Bill Donahue.
No, you heard it out of context. What he said exactly, I was present. He said, now that nation of Israel has not had any peace in 40 years and will not have any peace as long as it is structured on injustice and as long as, in paraphrasing, a people have been displaced and dispossessed from their homeland. He says, while you shield your dirty religion. Now, what he was referring to, sir, was he never mentioned Judaism anywhere in the entire speech. He never said Judaism. He never mentioned it. He was saying that if the world of Christianity would practice Christianity, the world would be a better place rather than professing it. As the gentleman said in a convoluted way, the previous caller, if the world of Islam would practice Islam and not just preach it, the world would be a better place. If the Jews would practice Judaism and not just preach it, the world would be a better place. So he was saying, your practice is different from what you profess and what you preach. They preach Judaism, but they are practicing their own dirty gutter religion. If they embraced Judaism, then the principles, the moral principles and precepts of Judaism as revealed by Moses in the Torah would make the world a better place, but that is not what they're doing.
Let me ask you a question. There was a journalist, his name was Milton Coleman, and if you remember, he was the one who put forth the statement by Jesse Jackson.
I remember it well.
Hannity, and he was angrily labeled Uncle Tom by Mr. Farrakhan, and he and others...
He is a Tom.
He is an Uncle Tom.
Of course he is.
Because he told the truth about a statement made by Jesse Jackson.
He violated the canons of journalism, and he violated the sensitive and very close and intimate relationship that a personal friend has with a personal friend. It was said off the record. It was understood that it was off the record, and then he didn't even have enough courage to leak it to the press under his own byline. He did it under someone else's byline. I would say that not only is he a Tom, but he's a hypocrite, and he should not be considered a friend because of the serious violation of that.
So if he tells the truth about a statement made by a public figure like Jesse Jackson, you consider that Uncle Tomism?
However you want to word it, sir, I've made my statement.
Okay, I have another question. I'll tell you what, why don't we go back to the phones? First, we'll check in with Chuck from Tony. You're live on WVNN and the Sean Hannity program. Good morning.
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Good, great time this morning.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Muhammad, I have a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Mr. Muhammad, you don't think he's bigoted against white people?
I don't. I'm not going to make any comments on that. I just have one question for him.
He's like an intelligent man, unlike you, Sean.
I'm an unintelligent, uninformed, devilish, lightweight talk show host. Go right ahead.
Calling in for some serious dialogue. You obviously don't want that.
No, of course not.
Okay, I think that some of the points that Mr. Muhammad made certainly have some validity, and perhaps if I was from that culture, and like he was saying, where people came in and were exploited, I would feel the same way. But what I would like to know is he made a statement that the white man had robbed the black man of his history and of his culture and of his God and everything, and I imagine that he would say that the white man did a pretty complete job of that. Is that so?
Yes, sir, he did a very thorough job.
A very thorough job. Okay. Well, then what I'd like to ask is, if that's the case, and the history has been totally obliterated, how do you assert that the statements about being the father of medicine and the father of culture and all this things that you're claiming that the Afrocentric type of thought, where does that information come from if the white man had done such a thorough job of obliterating it? There's obviously wouldn't be any records of it.
No, sir. You're misunderstanding the process.
Okay.
What we have to understand here is that we're looking at America, and we should see America as a room. And the slaves are here in this room, between these four walls, robbed of their name, their language, their religion, their culture, their God, their folkways, ways, and norms. But nothing was changed outside of this room. The manuscripts are still there. The Medu Neter, or the holy writings, or the hieroglyphics on the walls, still there. The texts from the ancient writings are still available, but they were not made available to the slave inside of America. If the slave were caught even reading, the slave was beaten severely or killed, or his tongue was cut out. Anything that showed the slave beginning to reach out, as Dr. Haley pointed out in his great work, Roots, which was just a mild version, any sign of trying to learn and to hook back up with our ancient past was destroyed inside of America. But now we have black people that travel all over the world, scholars and scientists who are digging at the manuscripts and in and out of the great temples of higher learning and enlightenment of the world and reading the hieroglyphics, and this wisdom has come to us, and also God has raised a man in our midst, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and now the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Let me ask you a question. Can white people get to heaven? Do you look at that as a possibility?
I don't know, sir.
I'm asking, does your religion teach that in any way, shape, or form?
What do you mean, sir?
Can only black people make it to heaven is what I'm asking?
We believe that any person that performs a righteous deed, that God does not ignore the righteous deed of any doer, no matter what their color is. We believe that God is more interested in the righteousness of the person than in the color of the person. It just so happens, sir, that white people have been the #1 perpetrators of all of these things that we have mentioned on this program.
Have you met many
throughout the earth?
Have you met many righteous white people in your life?
I haven't met one, sir.
You haven't met one?
Not
in your entire life?
Would you like to introduce me to one? I would be happy to meet one.
I think you're looking at one, but you think I'm a devil, so that's okay.
If you can find one anywhere, I'd be happy to meet.
You've never met, and most black people, are they righteous in your view? Most of the ones you've met?
All black people are righteous by nature.
Oh, okay.
This is learned behavior. These are the circumstances of 400 years of slavery, suffering, and death. Mm-hmm. These are 400 years of being manipulated and destroyed as a people. This is not the true nature of black people.
No. So the black people are righteous and the white people are devils?
Well, everything that is in the hands of black people to do evil with, white people put it in their hands. The guns you make, the drugs come in on trucks and trains and boats and planes. We don't even have a canoe. Mm-hmm. We're failing chemistry, most of us, because you didn't let us read for a long time, so we're not the ones making up all of these drugs.
Well, the one thing that we're not doing is we're not lighting the pipes and we're not injecting it into people's veins. There's a personal choice that you totally negate.
No, sir, there's no personal choice when you robbed me completely of a knowledge of myself and made me deaf, dumb, and blind.
Take away all responsibility for your own life.
Took it all away because for 400 years on the plantation, the slave had no responsibility.
We're going to live in the past
slave
forever.
Was conditioned, well, that is according to the leading psychiatrists and psychologists, there's a carryover today in that psyche and that thinking. The problem is not with the crack, Mr. Hannity. The problem is with the cracker.
And what about the person that takes the match and lights the crack, be he black or white? He doesn't have any choice?
He's a deaf, dumb, and blind person who has been robbed of a knowledge of self.
So a righteous, deaf, dumb, and blind black person that does that is a fool.
As the pastor said earlier, in a convoluted sort of way, this is a form of illegitimacy. This is a people who have been who have strayed from the way of God and who have been robbed of a knowledge of self. So they have to be made whole again because this society has corrupted them.
What a great thing. Take away all responsibility for your life. If you're lighting a crack pile, blame the slavery argument from 400 years ago.
The problem is with the cracker.
I think the problem is the lack of taking responsibility for one's life. If you light that crack pile, that's your problem, and you can blame white people all you want for that, sir. Nor would I, sir, and I would encourage everyone not to. Chuck will give you a final thought here. We're going to move on. Any other thoughts today?
Yes, I understand Mr. Muhammad's viewpoint on being robbed, so to speak, of culture by certain European powers. But I think that he should also maybe consider the fact that during that time of, if you would, European exploitation
still exists,
of the world, that certain countries who were in the business of exploited not only blacks but other whites and Asians, and that was just a period of exploitation. And
by white people, is that correct?
I beg your pardon, sir?
Was it by European white people?
There was, in the, quote, age of discovery, certainly there was, between Spain and Portugal and
black
the
slave
Netherlands
traders
and
as
Belgium
well.
and England.
No black slave traders. No arrogant white man was going to buy slaves from another slave. He would take that slave who was trying to sell the slaves and all the rest of the slaves.
But what I'm trying to say, sir, is that over in, let's say, in Eastern Europe, let's say in Poland, okay, there was a movement of the Germans, the Austrians, and the Russians.
Yes,
and they moved into Poland and they dismantled the country. And they robbed that people of their culture.
White people robbing white people.
Certainly.
Yes, sir.
Certainly. And there were wars in Africa where black people would exploit other black people.
Well, a war is different from slavery, colonialism, and exploitation and misuse and abuse.
Well, if it's a quote unjust war, if it's a war of exploitation, then it's exploitation.
Exploitation in any color is no good at all, sir.
Right. Okay. As long as we're clear on that it's not.
We're just talking about the number one robber, the number one raper and lyncher and liar and exploiter.
And that is the white person.
Yes, sir.
Continues to this day. We're going to move on. Chuck, thanks for your call this afternoon. We appreciate it. Jolie from Hartselle, first-time caller. You're live on WVNN and the Sean Hannity program. Good morning.
Yes. I only have really one thing to say.
Yes?
I think that both of you need to calm down and talk like civilized people.
I'm civilized. I'm not calling another person a devil and evil and a lightweight.
I understand that, but listen, the only way anyone can get along with someone else is to let them say their piece. Everyone has their own opinion on everything. Okay? I think another thing that I noticed is both of you keep on saying you people for all the whites and you people for all the blacks.
Blessed are the peacemakers, Jolie, huh?
No, listen. It doesn't matter. Everyone is a human being. Everyone is equal in my
You're great. Let me tell you my vision for America, and I'd love to hear Mr. Muhammad hear this. I would like to see in our society African Americans, white Americans, Irish Americans, Italian Americans, those Americans, the National Association for the Advancement of Good and Decent People that want to see this country move forward and live together and work together and start businesses together. Make America what it could be, a city on a hill, a beacon of light shining across the world. Those people that fight for the good values that families can get along and races can get along, that we can be successful, that we can end the drug problem. I would love to see these things happen, and I don't think we're ever going to get that way if we're blaming other people for definitely injustices of the past, which I agree with Mr. Muhammad about. I'd love to see the progress go forward. I'd like to see all racism end. I'd like to see people's hearts changed. And I'd also like to see this country work together in an inclusive manner. But this type of anti-white rhetoric, this calling white people devils.
I just called you a devil this morning.
Well, you just said to this audience that only black people were righteous and that white people
historically were evil. I called you a devil because of the way you act.
Okay, I understand that. So I'm just saying I share a different vision. I think we should, as Martin Luther King said, judge people by the content of their character, because there are decent members of all races, in spite of him rolling his eyes and throwing his hands up in the air here. But that's my vision, which is certainly different than his.
May I express my vision?
Yes, sir.
I, too, sir, would like to see all of those things. Black people, since we've been here in America.
I mean, you agree with the devil. You better be careful here.
No, sir, I'm not agreeing with the devil. Those are my convictions before I met the devil this morning. I have always, and black people have always wanted to see that. That's why we faced your tanks in the streets. That's why we faced...
They weren't my tanks, by the way. Thank you very much.
That's why we faced vicious police dogs in the streets.
I'll tell you what, hold your thought. Jolie, we appreciate your call. Thank you for joining us this morning. We got to take a break for the news. We'll come back. We'll continue. We'll talk more with Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and he's the National Assistant to the Minister Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam. One open line, 830-2277. Stay tuned. First, we'll get the latest from this afternoon at the Von Braun Civic Center, 2 p.m. today. And the title of, I guess, his talk is going to be In Christ All Things Are Possible, and a Bible Revival for Black Survival. And, I want to ask you a question, because there's got to be at least 15 bodyguards with you today. Basically, you surrounded the building. Do you feel there's a threat against your life?
No, sir. I believe that security is prevention. Security is being so on top of a situation until you discourage even the thought from coming up in a would-be assailant's mind. It's not being so good until you can handle something if it happens. So if the President of the United States of America could be shot, if the Pope could be shot, if Dr. King, if Minister Malcolm X, if Dr. King's mother could be shot at the organ in the church, if the airports have had to take security precautions now, we just believe that it's a good security measure.
You mentioned Malcolm X just a moment ago. What are your thoughts on Malcolm X? There's been a revival of support for Malcolm X in our society. I've recently read his autobiography. We're talking about a guy for the better part of his life who was a drug pusher, drug dealer, pimp, prostitute. The rhetoric as you spewed on the program today, where I think you can take the good message here and spread the gospel and raise up this inner city of children, or this group of inner city of kids today, to the point where they can be successful. They can become the Arsenio Halls, the talented athletes, the Colin Powells, and the Reverend Farrakhans and the Jesse Jacksons of the future.
Well, what we must understand is that at Arsenio Hall or Bill Cosby, if we are to look at a Spike Lee or an Oprah Winfrey, that is dependent upon white acceptance. White people must accept them and must allow them in. They are very talented, but there are many, many other black people who are equally and in some cases even more talented.
Absolutely.
But white people only allow one or two token blacks in who will serve certain purposes. I was attempting to give my vision just before the news broke.
Sure, go right ahead.
And certainly I share with you, as many black people would share with you, that we have always wanted to see all of the races get along together. We have always wanted to see that kind of egalitarian society established, where there is loving, caring, and sharing, and where that abounds in the atmosphere. But as we look at it now, we can see that no matter how we face tanks and dogs and troops in the streets to keep us out of high schools, to keep us out of colleges and away from public accommodations, then to give us so-called civil rights and then turn around and take the civil rights gains back.
Right.
Now black people are beginning to come to the point where we want to just do something for ourselves and let white people go on and do whatever the hell they want to do.
Why then, for example, let's take any black inner-city school system, for example, where it's totally run, totally monopolized by blacks. Why haven't they started to clean up their own community first when slavery has passed so many years ago? Do you not place any blame on them at all? I mean, you seem to advocate all responsibility for their behavior.
Well, in all reality, some blame would have to be placed on them
hallelujah.
because we are in that situation. The scripture says in Hosea, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. But it goes on to say, because they have rejected knowledge.
Well, there is no insight. The people perish, too.
But when a people... That's absolutely
correct. And no
correct.
vision, that's right.
When a people are put at such a disadvantage, Mr. Hannity, when people have to deal with disenfranchisement and being displaced and dispossessed and robbed completely of a knowledge of self and the power of their own being, they don't always make the right choices or decisions. The educational system that has been put into their hands, it teaches them against their people. It reeks with white supremacy, and they are not able to bridge the gap between that and the growing consciousness that is coming up in the hearts and minds of the youth that they have to face each day.
Let's go back to the phones. We'll check in first this hour with Bob from East Limestone. You're live on WVNN and the Sean Hannity program. Good morning.
Yes, Sean, good morning. Wish to welcome your guest. He's a very articulate man.
Yes.
And I used to teach at Tennessee State University in Nashville, predominantly black school, and in a class on religion, we dealt with the black Muslims, and I and my students read Elijah Muhammad's first major book, Message to the Black Man. I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask your guest, but I'd like for him to comment for your listeners on the way that the white devils were created on the island of Patmos by the mad scientist Yakub. Would he comment on that and explain it?
I will be touching on that, sir, today at the Von Braun Civic Center at 2 p.m. If you could come out to the Von Braun Civic Center today at 2 p.m., perhaps it's a very extensive subject. As you know, it begins on page 103 of Message to the Black Man, the great and illuminating book by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, dealing with birth control, sex, and genetic engineering and the grafting process of grafting the recessive from the dominant, and touching on Mendelian law and other things, but I don't think that time would permit, and it's not a subject that I could just brush over lightly. But again, today at 2 p.m. at the Von Braun Civic Center, I can touch on it a little more extensively.
Is there an admission at this tonight, do you know?
I believe the tickets are $7 at the Von Braun Civic Center, but I also understand that that's for those who will be dining. But there are separate arrangements, different arrangements made for those who will not be dining.
Understand. Bob, go ahead.
Let me ask, please, about the myth of Yakub, because it's just a small part of it is
Go
very
right
germane.
ahead, sir. Go right ahead.
If white people are devils, and I'm not going to dispute that now, but if white people are devils, and according to the myth of Yakub on the island of Patmos, this mad black scientist created white people by continuing to cross till he got lighter and lighter skin, then I'd like to ask the minister how he comments on white people being what they are as created by this mad black scientist Yakub.
Well, sir, white people are a part of black people. I would be one of the first to say that, if that's what you're leading to. From the 30% of dissatisfied among black people, as we are taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, from that 30% of dissatisfied, we understand that in the original black man and black woman, that there was a weaker nature or a weaker germ, and a certain propensity or inclination toward deviation from God's divine law. And out of that nature of black people comes this personification that we call white man and white woman today. So your point is well taken. I hear under what you're saying that if white people are all that they are today and they come from black people and come from Yakub is the correct pronunciation, what does that say about Yakub and black people? The process was a purging process that was to last for 6,000 years. For us to see the weaker part of us rule us and govern us, a part that became extremely wicked, far beyond what it started. And once we would come from under this, we would no longer allow this to creep back into our spirit and our nature again. But
where are we in the 6,000-year period now?
We are at the end of the 6,000-year period now, sir. We're on the Sabbath day, or the seventh day, which, according to Scripture, represents now the coming of God and the establishment of God's order, a kingdom here on this earth.
Okay, my other question very quickly is, when I was teaching at Tennessee State, I wanted my students to go to the local Mosque of Islam on Charlotte Avenue.
Yes, sir.
All my students were black, and I'm white.
Yes, sir.
And I arranged this, and one of my students came to me. They didn't have transportation, so I was going to take care of that. One of my students came to me very embarrassedly and said, Dr. C, she said, you will not be able to go.
Yes, sir.
And I anticipated what the reason was, but I asked her because I wanted her to feel the thrust of this. She said, because you're white.
Yes, sir.
And I felt that the student, I didn't feel offended myself. I think people have a right to exclude whomever they want. But I felt embarrassed for her and the other black students because they had already felt white racism against them, and now they were feeling black racism against me.
Well,
Can you comment on that? Could I go to a black Muslim mosque today and be welcomed?
I would love to comment on that for you, sir.
Okay.
We have special occasions, only special occasions. The meeting today at the Von Braun Civic Center at 2 p.m., some of our mosque meetings, you can come to some of our mosque meetings, but only on very special occasions. Let me explain why, though, sir. The reason is because black people, again, have been so robbed of a knowledge of self, and as the scripture says, so spoiled as a people by the oppressor. And while we're trying to scrub up and clean up, so we close those meetings to the rest of the world until we can come out a polished people that God would be pleased with. So we certainly could not have you, sir, sitting in all of our meetings. Psychologically, black people tend to not listen to the message when whites are present as hard or as intently as they normally would. They're too busy worrying about what you're thinking about what the minister or the speaker is saying. So we have reasons, sir, for our meetings and our mosque events and why we do them that way.
Bob, thanks so much for your call this morning. We appreciate your input on the program. Let's go back to the phones. We'll check in next. Carolyn, first-time caller from Huntsville. You're live on WVNN and the Sean Hannity program. Good morning.
Good morning, Sean. I would like to say that I was just listening to the last caller, and a lot on what I was going to comment about, and it was that what we're suffering from here is the masses of black people are suffering from a knowledge of self, as well as the masses of white people are suffering from a knowledge of self. And I think Brother Minister Dr. Khalid Muhammad did a very beautiful job in explaining that, because I wanted him to comment on that, to try to teach both people, because this is what we're suffering from.
Well, let me ask you a question. Obviously, you support Mr. Muhammad, and that's perfectly acceptable. But do you hear elements of racism here? For example, whites not allowed in the church only on special occasion. If blacks were excluded from any white church, wouldn't society raise up in indignation and say that's a form of racism?
You've done it since we've been here.
Not me, sir. What churches would not allow a black person in? Can you name one?
Even Jimmy Carter's church, when he was running for president, wouldn't allow a black pastor in. He was a candidate for the Democratic nomination, and they wouldn't even allow the black man in his church, and he's the president.
Oh, so you support this form of racism?
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, they all owned slaves. Associated Press just released it on his birthday, that they owned slaves, sold them for kegs of molasses and syrup, and these were the founding fathers of America.
Well, so obviously you want to rebuild America and have your own separate nation, as you've been talking about today.
But we will not treat you the way you've treated us.
Sir, I have not treated you any which way.
Let me reword it. We will not treat your people the way your people have treated us. Do you deny the white race?
I think my people are people of good character regardless of their color of skin, sir. So if they're of bad character...
If that were the case, then we would be of the same people, are we?
We would.
Mr. Hannity.
Because I'm of good character, but I question yours.
Mr. Hannity?
Yes, ma'am, Carolyn.
Yes. What I'm hearing is that you seem to be trying to dig and endeavor, and it's like he said, you are acting like a devil rather than try to listen to what he's saying.
Well, I've heard what he said, and what I hear is...
but you keep bringing up the same old thing.
Well, ma'am, you consider it the same thing, but I think they're important if we're talking about...
You know what she's saying is true.
If we talk about statements that I view as bigoted and racist, yes, I'm going to bring it up on the program. I have no animosity towards this gentleman.
You have veiled bigotry, veiled racism.
In your viewpoint, sir.
You're one of the slick devils.
I'm one of the slick... Not only am I a devil, I'm a slick devil.
But a lightweight.
Oh, excuse me, he's contradicted himself. I'm not only a slick, I'm a lightweight devil. I think you've contradicted yourself a number of times on the program.
Let's look at this question.
Carolyn, let me ask you a question. Do you support this Nation of Islam? Is that your viewpoint? You think that's the best vision for America that's going to help the black race in our society?
For black people.
For black people.
Does she not have a mind of her own? Could she answer a question?
Well, you cut right into her statement. So apparently you wanted to program her.
Oh, I'm programming her, and you're coming to her defense.
Of course, she's my sister.
What a champion, I'll tell you. What a nice guy.
May I speak?
You know, I think it's sad, though, that you're so weak that you're so easily programmed.
Listen at this, Devin.
I think it's a shame that you're so easily programmed that you don't have a stronger mind for
yourself. Listen at the syrup.
That you need him to step in and defend you.
The grease slipping from this slimy devil.
I'm a slimy devil.
Trying to make her feel now.
No, because you've hypnotized her to believe and to rote back like a parrot
every day on this program.
Everything that you spew, all your hatred.
You just never met one like me.
Sir, what you do is you hypnotize this woman, you come to her defense because she's not capable of standing up without you jumping in.
I'm hypnotizing you, devil.
Sir, you don't hypnotize a thing.
May I speak?
Go right ahead.
What I'm...
Sir, if you were able to hypnotize me, I'd start spewing your hatred.
Will you allow my sister to speak, please?
I'll allow her when I'm ready.
Will you allow my sister to speak?
Sister speak. She's my sister.
You ignored the white woman who came on first, who wanted a job, and you wanted a sensationalized program, so you ignored her sincere call about a job.
I'm a bigoted, slick,
and she was one of your own people. You didn't even want to hear her talk about a job.
Go right ahead, Carolyn.
I think you're hurt, and you would do well to listen to what this man has to say.
But he won't even let me be a member of his church, Carolyn. I can't even go down and join because I'm white.
No, you can't join.
Well, if you listen, then you probably could.
But Carolyn, I can't. I'm not allowed to.
Yourself.
He just said I'm not allowed to join. Carolyn, didn't you hear him?
He said there were special occasions.
Special occasions, but then I'd be treated like a second-class citizen. The very thing that he stands on this program supposedly fighting because he's a hypocrite.
I'm not fighting against second-class citizenship. I understand.
I'm inclusive. I would include you in my church. You can go to any church that I go to, sir.
Sir, I might come and visit your church one day.
So do you hear the hypocrisy, Carolyn?
I could come and visit your church.
I would never deny it.
You're calling all of that out of him instead of listening to what he has to offer.
Ma'am, if I could even join his church, I might have an open mind to it.
You want to be a black Muslim?
I would consider it, but I'm not allowed to go to your church.
Do you want to be a black Muslim?
No.
Well, then stop jiving.
I'm just saying, in principle, even if I wanted to, I couldn't go to your church.
But it's hypocrisy to
You're
pretend.
the hypocrite.
Me?
Because you're saying on this program that
believe what I say, and I say what I believe, and I act on it.
Let me tell you, here's the hypocrisy. What you're saying is blacks were treated poorly in this society, they were discriminated against, and in your very own church, you won't allow whites in on a regular basis, only when you freely choose to allow whites in.
You want me to allow the people in who discriminated against us and who oppressed us?
Sir, I never discriminated against a black person in my life, sir. You're allowed on my program as equally as any other person.
I can't trust you. Do this for your ratings, sir.
Sir, this is not for ratings. This is because this is my job, sir.
It's your job to be a devil and cynical on the air.
Carolyn, we'll give you a parting shot in peace here. Go right ahead.
I'd like to say that maybe you should do as the forefathers or your forefathers have done and take a lesson and learn from your father while you have him in your midst.
And what should I learn?
You should learn who you are, why you are the way you are.
I know why I am the way I am.
Obviously, you're not acting the way, so you need to take another
You don't like the way... Well, I'll tell you what, you just hate
so much.
You just keep studying and you keep roting back like a little parrot. You're a good hypnotized sergeant, just like all his little quiet bodyguards are here. They mimic, they talk just like Louis Farrakhan, they dress like Louis Farrakhan. They all want to be Louis Farrakhan.
And we all love Louis Farrakhan.
And you're all wannabe. You want to be just like him.
Louis Farrakhan Jr. In some areas, if you had him on your program, you would have a much better dialogue and communication. He's a much more erudite man. He's much more calm in terms of how he would represent himself and what we teach. But I'm one of the flamethrowers that goes out in front of him. I don't like the vicious attacks against him, so I come out with power and force to defend him.
And modesty, too. Peter from Huntsville, you're live on WVNN on the Sean Hannity program. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you today?
Doing good.
Well, let's get to the point. Come on, we got a break coming up here. There we go.
What I wanted to say was this. First of all, I do agree in some areas with your guest, Mr. Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
As far as the responsibility of black people for lifting themselves up, so to speak, by their bootstraps.
As I have said, I support that as well, and I also speak out against the morally reprehensible history of racism and oppression and slavery that was the history of this country, too.
Yes.
Although he fails to hear that part.
But
I hear you, sir.
We as black people must begin to move away from the history of the past of racism, accept it as it is, and still move on with our lives and develop ourselves Mr. Muhammad said that the black family is broken down in our society. That is so true. I have to applaud, though, his group for their efforts in the inner cities, in the larger cities in this country, because you cannot find the educated black person who has made it in the white man's society to go back in return to where he came from to help his people. So the Nation of Islam has my vote and my support to continue in its efforts.
Okay, you're gonna go to the Bonbon Civic Center this afternoon, 2 p.m.?
Unfortunately not. I have a 1 o'clock appointment that will keep me away from it. But in the event that I do have some time, I will stop by.
Please do so.
Also, I want to say this to both of you. Please, there is a book on the market now by Shelby Steele, a black author, and the name of the book is The Content of Our Character. And it is very good for not only black people but white people, so that we can realize who we are from a individual standpoint as opposed to a racial standpoint.
Sir, I share the vision. As I mentioned earlier on the program, I think blacks and whites can make it in a society if we judge people by the content of the character. Certainly we'll have black racists and white racists and white supremacists and black supremacists, but in an inclusive society that is God-fearing and God-believing, I think it's possible to overcome all evil.
I believe, let me make a quick statement here. I believe that there are many white people who would say the same thing that Mr. Hannity has said. As long as black people are willing to follow the rules, the regulations, and the laws that white people have already set up, as long as we're willing to go along with what's been going on, then white people will get along with us fairly well. But when we stand up and express self-determination, as one of the Supreme Court justices, Thurgood Marshall, who was with the Supreme Court, said, he said the Ku Klux Klan no longer wears just white sheets. He said they now wear blue uniforms and black robes. So he even felt racism high up in the Supreme Court. We find this all over. The last point here, reverse racism. We keep hearing that on the program. If someone is able to come into your home and kick the door down with their weapons in their hand, rob everybody in the house and rape everybody in the house, and on their way out of the door you trick them down and take their gun from them and put their gun to their head, does that make you a reverse robber and a reverse rapist? If the slave is able to take the whip from the slave master and start beating the slave master with his own whip that he's been beating him with for 400 years, does that make the slave now a reverse slave master? It's ridiculous.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. Peter, thank you so much for your call this afternoon. Opens up a line, 830-2277. Toll free this morning if you're on Cellular One. It's star 770. Abdul Muhammad, National Assistant to Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And we're taking your telephone calls this afternoon. When lines are available, we'll let you know. Let's go right back to the phones. We'll check in next. Tim from Athens, first-time caller. You're live on AM 770 in the Sean Hannity program. Good morning.
Hey, Sean. I appreciate you letting me speak today.
Appreciate you being on the program. Thank you.
You are the voice of Alabama. Mr. Muhammad seems to be the voice to black people.
Yes, sir. I wish I was the voice to good and decent Americans, regardless of the color of their skin.
Well, there's a lot of decent Americans out here listening to what you have to say, and they hear what he says, too, and we can tell who the real hate group really is. I haven't heard of anything but animosity coming from Mr. Muhammad, stirring up animosity among white people. I just was wondering, he said he's going to be at the Civic Center today. I wonder if the Ku Klux Klan was to try to get a meeting there at the Civic Center. I wonder if they'd be able to do that. It seems that David Duke, Pat Buchanan, everywhere they go, they get smear campaigns, riots, protesting.
Don't you think David Duke, though, is a Nazi? Don't you think the Ku Klux Klan is evil?
I think that Muhammad is speaking evil towards
He asked you a question about David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan.
Answer the question.
He asked you a question about David Duke and the Klan.
I do not think Mr. Duke is evil. I think he has a lot of good...
Mr. Duke won 65% of the white church-going Protestant vote in his state.
He does have a
He's
good
not standing alone.
And he gets smeared everywhere he goes.
Also got creamed.
65% of the white Protestant church-going vote is not a smear, sir.
Also got creamed nationwide at the most 7% in the primaries he got for president. Bottom line is, I think both extremes are being talked about here today. I think he represents the other extreme. The
George Washington owned slaves. Thomas Jefferson, he wasn't with David Duke. The founding fathers of the country owned slaves. So what you...
white forefathers, they created this country.
And they all had slaves.
And sir, you know, I'm never...
So what you're witnessing here today is not reverse racism, but it's black people standing up finally against the racists who have their foot on our neck.
Well, let me ask you something, Mr. Muhammad. What do you think about repatriation of black people to the motherland of Africa?
I love repatriation, but I believe that after 400 years of our sweat, blood, and tears being in the soil of America, America was built on the back of the slaves. We worked from can't see morning to can't see night, and we were never paid a penny. So if America were a true and a just nation, as reparations is being discussed with the Japanese, reparations are the Germans with the Jews, reparations America with the Indians, but no one wants to discuss reparations to the black man and woman here in America after 400 years of building this country under slave labor. Some of these states should be given to us. Some of the most fertile and minerally rich states. We can't take money from America alone because America's economy is in trouble. Her banks, her savings and loan, IBM, Xerox is in the Clorox. General Motors and others, her airlines are in serious trouble. Her financial center used to be at Wall Street, now it's in Tokyo. She used to be the #1 lender nation of the world. Now America is the #1 debtor nation. God's hand of judgment is stretched out over America. You're not hearing bigotry and hatred on this end. You're hearing finally a love among black people rising up, and among them springing from our minds and our breasts and our chests and our souls. And we believe that as white people will now recognize this, that they will say just what you're saying because they don't want to see black people stop begging them. We don't believe in welfare. We believe in farewell.
Tim, we'll give you a parting shot here. What do you have to say about that?
I believe there is a voice for the white people. The Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. I'd like to remind everybody of the rally that's coming May.
Oh, so wait a minute. You're a Ku Klux Klan member?
So are you.
That I am.
Your hood is hanging in the closet.
Sir, let me tell you something. I repudiate the Ku Klux Klan for what they stand for.
Sean will be at the meeting.
Sean will not be at the meeting. Thank you very much.
He'll have his hood.
I look at it. Well, you're playing cute today. You're having a good time. I think, sir, you're the biggest racist I have ever had on the program. So we think equally the same of each other. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your input. You like
racist means I love my race, because that's what I am.
Okay,
as a violinist or
as the Ku Klux Klan is a racist organization, so are you. That's good. I'm glad
but I don't love my race over another race to oppress another race.
Sir, now
Again, we don't want to oppress white folks.
Sir, you're a liar.
We just want to rule ourselves.
Okay.
We don't want to rule your people.
All right, we'll move on. We'll check in. Roger from Huntsville, first-time caller. You're live on WVNN and the Sean Hannity program. Good morning.
Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Good, sir.
Hey, just a couple of comments. I didn't want to ask the good doctor anything, because I've been listening to him, but, you know, you can get a cause and get any people to back you up, you know, that's downtrodden or think they're part of that cause. Now, I'd like to know, and like I say, I don't want to comment or anything, but I wonder what his finances are. I wonder if he'd be willing to make those public, you know?
Well, they certainly have an army of people protecting him here today, and I'm sure somebody's paying for it. How do you survive financially, Mr. Muhammad?
Well, let's let this gentleman finish, and I'll answer both of you.
Well, that was my only question, really. Like I said, I didn't care if you comment or not, because
we just wanted to cast aspersions. He didn't want an answer.
Oh.
But you know, it's just like Jim Baker. You know, he had a lot of followers. And
how many people total? We have about 15.
Jim Baker was white, sir.
So what? He just got a cause. I don't care if he's white, black, blue, or whatever.
All right, thanks so much.
He found a cause, and he found a way not to have to work for a living.
What do you think about the comments being made here by Mr. Muhammad? Do they scare you? Do you think he's a racist?
This man is not afraid.
No, they don't scare me.
Let me ask him the question. Let the man. We let your person answer. Let this man answer the question.
You're trying to lead this.
Sir, do you think this person is capable of violence when he talks about this rhetoric against the white race?
We've never had any. There are no. In all of our years in America, we don't carry guns. We don't carry knives. We don't carry weapons. We've never painted anything on any Jewish synagogues. We don't desecrate anyone's graves. We've never attacked any white people. We've never done that. Police agencies in every city say that the Muslims are some of the most model citizens in those cities.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm asking him a question. Do you think he'll probably just whip up the frenzy and distort the minds and the thinking of young African Americans, making them hate the white person? So the point
we don't want them to hate white people. We want them to love black people.
You'll have minions doing your bidding, just like you like.
My objective is not to get black people to hate.
You admitted on this program that you want to hypnotize Carolyn and other people that call on the program.
I said you hypnotize people on here every morning, and that I'm hypnotizing you.
I'm not on in the morning. I'm only on Saturday morning. I'm saying what
whenever you're on, sir.
Sir, what I'm making the point to you is that what you want to do is you want to whip up.
Do you want me to answer this gentleman's question?
After I ask you a question, that'll be fine. I'm saying
we're going to ignore his question and go to your question.
That's right. We're going to ignore his question and go to my question. What I'm asking you is, when you distort and whip up this frenzy and hatred and this bigotry towards white people, I'm sure it's in the hopes of having minions hypnotized by you doing your bidding.
I only deal with the history from my teacher, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We make up no history on the white man. His history is written in blood, sir.
Okay, we'll give Roger a parting shot. Roger, you still there?
Me off?
No, I did not cut him off.
Right.
Roger, you there?
The only thing I want
to answer your question about my funds and finance.
Please, go right ahead.
The thing that bothers me is that the young black that does listen to him will become so much involved in this that he'll lose sight of really what he's got to do to be successful in America.
I think that's true. I think what it does is it whips their minds up into a frenzy.
I don't think many young blacks believe they have any future in America.
I know a lot of young blacks, sir, that have a good future. I know a lot of successful blacks, old, young, whatever you want to call them. And I don't think that they follow you.
Thanks, Roger, for your call. We appreciate your input. Opens up a line, 830-2277. Toll free if you're on cellular, 1 * 770. If you'd like to answer your question about the finances, go right ahead.
I am a volunteer.
You're a volunteer.
I work for the movement. These men, none of them are on salary. They're all dedicated to the liberation and salvation of the black nation.
How do you survive?
The Nation of Islam takes care of all of my expenses. I don't receive a check. I don't receive a salary for this. This is not a job for me. This is my life's vocation as a minister and as a man of God, working in the vineyard of God to deliver his people.
So you own no personal wealth?
I have no assets and no liabilities.
Okay, appreciate that. Let's move on this morning. We'll check in next. Kevin from Madison, you're live on WVNN and the Sean Hannity program. Good morning.
Good morning. I just have a couple of comments, and one of them, as far as one race being superior to the other, as far as the brain or whatever that may go, I believe that is each individual. I believe there's individuals of both races that have the mental capacity to learn and become more knowledgeable than other people. I believe there is certain blacks that are smarter than certain whites. I believe there are certain whites that are smarter than certain blacks, but I will not draw a line and say all blacks are smarter than whites. I believe each individual, if you want to do that, you can put us both away and say simply because of the moral character, the Asians dust us both off. I mean, and it's basically because
I'll tell you, make a great point, because
character and the learning and the discipline when you're young is what it takes to be knowledgeable and successful in life. It's not a matter of waiting and, well, I've been downtrodden, now all of a sudden I'm so smart, I'm going to learn everything.
Well, it's interesting if you watch Asians succeeding or being so successful in this country, other people from other countries coming here, not speaking the language, not so caught up in the rhetoric and hatred and bigotry of racism, they're very successful in a short period of time. What I would like to see, and I think that's void in the African-American community, is the leadership that is pushing and pursuing excellence, taking advantage of the American dream as other immigrants to this country take advantage of each and every day.
It's no American dream. It's only an American nightmare.
Okay, there we go.
But let me say this is
Sure.
I want to answer that. Certainly, sir, I believe that there are very intelligent, very wise, and very smart white people among the white people, as well as among black people. What I was attempting to do early in the program was to address the very pointed question that came to me by Mr. Hannity. When I spoke of black people in a superior position, that was not to negate intelligence on both sides. I was collectively dealing with a collective history of black people being the fathers and mothers of the earlier disciplines that the world has based its foundation on. That's merely what I was talking about, going back to Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and Pythagoras and others, and studying the great scholars of the world who are now giving us information that shows that they made pilgrimages to Mecca, I mean not to Mecca, but to the Mecca of education of that that day to Kemet or to Egypt and other parts of Africa.
Kevin, we're going to move on. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue. WVNN News Talk time now is 11:49. I'm sorry, good morning. Coming up on afternoon. Thank you for listening to AM 770 in the Sean Hannity program as we talk about and discuss, as we debate the issues of the day each Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 in the afternoon. This afternoon, we're going to carry the program up until 12:15. And as we continue our discussion with Khalid Abdul Muhammad, National Assistant to the Minister Louis Farrakhan, he'll be speaking this afternoon at the Von Braun Civic Center, 2 p.m. today. And the title of the lecture is In Christ All Things Are Possible, a Bible Revival for Black Survival. And if you'd like to go on down there, you can do so this afternoon. Let's go right back to the phones. One open line, 830-2277. Someone fell off during the break. We'll talk first with Janice from Hartselle, first-time caller. You're live on WVNN and the Sean Hannity program. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Janice. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Listen, I wanted to ask, I don't know his name, but I want to ask him a few questions.
Mr. Muhammad, yes.
Yes, Mr. Muhammad. What Bible do you use, Mr. Muhammad?
Well, we study from all of the Bibles. You know, there's so many Bibles now. There's the Douay version, the Schofield version, the King James version, the Phillips version, the New World Translation, the Revised Standard Version, the Re-Revised Standard Version, and the Re-Revised Standard Version. And some of the Bibles have 66 books in it, and other Bibles have 72 books in it. So we try to study all of them, even though there seems to be some disagreement among those who are publishing the Bibles and in the seminaries and theological schools as to which one is the most authentic from the original manuscripts.
Okay, well, I usually use the King James Bible. But in our church, I go to a non-denominational church, and there are blacks that go to our church. There's, and I realize that there is a lot of racism still going on these days, as much as ever. And I am totally opposed to that. That is totally wrong. And from the very beginning, it was wrong, and God did not. That, we are created equally. God created us equally, and that is wrong. But I do believe that vengeance is God's, and for you to take the wrath out yourself against white people for what used to happen, I think that, we have to forgive others for what they do to us. That is scriptural also. And if we don't forgive others, God's not going to forgive us. And I kind of feel like, you don't...
We have no vengeance program against white people, ma'am.
I feel like you have this something against white people with the way that I know the way that they treated you.
And what is going on today, but I have spoken of no vengeance program. You had a white man, a devil, that just came into the studio with an army sweatshirt on and all kinds of arsenal insignia on his vehicle with his hands in his pocket. Big devil said he came in just to see the face of the one who's on the radio.
Well, what just happened? Just let me clarify here. Somebody did walk into the back of the studio to see Mr. Muhammad's face. How did he get past those 15 guards is what I want to know.
I told them that he worked for the station, and I told them not to stop anyone that was coming back and forth in here to conduct business here at the station.
I told everyone to lock the door. Anyway, it sounds like she's bringing up a good point here, because I think what she's talking about is forgiveness, moving on, the true essence, I believe, of religion. There's no validity to this. Sounds like a decent-hearted human being here.
I can find nothing in what the young lady, in nothing that she has said that would cause me to attack her.
Well, I guess from listening to the show, I feel like you have a lot of resentment, because every time someone would get on the show, you would say that the forefathers had slaves and all this, which is wrong. And I would in no way say that it was right.
As many white people fought against that morally reprehensible thing as... but he fails to acknowowledge that. Of course, only black people are righteous.
Only a handful of whites have done that. The overwhelming majority are not of that same thing.
And there still is a lot of racism going on today. But I do feel like you, being such a leader that you are, you can have a very big influence to get that not to be so anymore. You can also influence that you have to forgive the white people that did that to you.
And I think you, ma'am, and Mr. Hannity here, if you are sincere, can play a major role among your own people to get them to stop that.
Maybe you can invite us to your church on a regular basis. That would be a good start.
I would think that it is not for you to be at our church, but to go to the many white churches.
Well, why can't why won't you let me in your church?
Go to that 65% of white church-going Protestant Christians
my church, sir.
You voted for David Duke.
I want to join your church, but you won't let me. I changed my mind. I want to join your church.
I want to express something to this young lady.
You won't let me, though.
No, sir, that's correct. I will not.
Because you're racist.
I believe in my race, and I love my race.
And prejudiced?
I'm not prejudiced.
Oh,
Prejudice means when you study the etymological root to prejudge. We're not prejudging white people.
Well, then why don't you let me in your church?
We've been under you for 400 years, and I've been on radio with you this
Getting
morning.
a little tired.
I don't have to prejudge you.
400 years.
Acted like a devil for the past
2 hours.
2 hours. So I don't have to prejudge you. But I want to make a statement to the young lady.
Slick, lightweight devil. You have those two other adjectives.
Statement is,
Okay, Sean, let me hear what you say.
whenever you go to any hospital or clinic or doctor, the doctor in medical science must make a complete case study, must get a case history. And from that case history, he will ask the patient or she will ask the patient certain questions to determine in the case history what have been the actual symptoms. Once you have the case history, then you can properly diagnose the cure. In order for there to be any harmony, if it is at all God's will, between the races, young lady, if there's to be any harmony, it must be based on justice and it must be based on truth. So we must first of all find out what the case history is. Find out in our diagnosis how things got this way, and then go to the root of it and try to cure it from the root. Otherwise, we will have recurring effects.
Total peace. It says that in the Bible. It's going to get worse and worse.
I respect that. I respect it.
But I know
You got done telling me before, after I repudiated him, that I had my Klan hat in the closet.
You
in spite of my vision for America.
You continue to harangue me.
Perhaps you didn't call people devils and slick and all this sort of thing. You weren't so derogatory and mean-spirited.
You that. I didn't call this young lady that because she's not calling in that spirit.
Janice, appreciate your call this afternoon. And it is now afternoon. We appreciate you joining us. Let's go back to the phones. John from Huntsville, first-time caller. You're live on WVNN and the Sean Hannity program. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon. I sure am glad we have a 5-second delay.
Me too.
This has been one of the more amusing conversations I've listened to in a long time.
Good. We're glad you find it amusing. What's your point today?
Well, the point is that you are definitely revealing your susceptibility to being baited without any doubt. You've got some guilt feelings somewhere here. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist.
Who are you talking to, me or Mr. Muhammad? I have guilt feelings about what, sir?
What about being what?
Sir, let me ask you, do you have a degree in psychology? Do you have the ability to read one's mind? I mean, what makes you so able to ascertain? What makes you are a practitioner of what? A professional of what, sir? A professional of what?
Medical science.
Medical science. I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Well, then you I feel sorry for you if you don't.
Okay, so what's the point, sir? What's the deep dark? I want to ask you a question because you just made an allegation against me. What's the deep dark secret? What am I hiding today?
Well, we'll find that out later on.
Well, you really don't. But the point is, you really don't know, do you?
I think I do.
I don't think so. What is it then?
Okay, I wanted to ask Mr. Muhammad.
No, I want you to answer the question, sir. What is the deep dark secret?
Please give me a deep, dark, long condition, the system of living in a racist system.
And what is it, sir? What is the deep, dark secret? Will you tell us, please? We've asked you 10 times.
The white man just has to be in control, doesn't he?
Sir, why don't you let the man answer the question?
You won't allow him to answer.
I'm answering.
I don't appreciate you disrespecting him this way.
Go right ahead. Answer the question. I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me my deep, dark secret of guilt that you're going to expose on the program.
What I wanted to say first, and then, of course, I'll deal with your question.
No, sir. This is my program.
I want you to do it the way he wants.
Either you do it my way or you're not going to be on the program. That's right.
Well, that's quite
That's the way America is run.
Sir, I'll allow you your comment if you just answer, if you go further on the allegation.
Isn't that something?
If you go further with the allegation, you made an allegation against me, and I think it's fair that you back that up and define what you just said.
You haven't backed anything up. You said
Sir,
this
I want to hear what you have to say.
I think I can make it rather convincing, even you.
Sir, then please tell us the deep, dark guilt. We've been going around here for 5 minutes. Tell us that, and we'll allow you to make your comment.
Don't you have any guilt whatsoever participating in?
No, sir, I've never been racist. No, sir, I've never been racist in my life.
You don't even realize the racism that you're wreaking over there.
I'm sorry?
You don't recognize it, and that's the point I was trying to demonstrate to you if you just let me ask Mr. Muhammad a question.
Go right ahead. You can't answer my question. You're inept. That's it, sir.
Now you call the man inept.
He is. He's totally inefficient. I ask him a question 5 times. He makes an allegation. He can't back it up. Go right ahead, sir.
Sometimes, okay, but anyhow, let's get back to the point. Some time ago, there was a Klansman that called in, and it seemed as if Mr. Muhammad almost immediately perceived that this guy was a member of the Klan, but you didn't. you had to ask him whether or not he was a member. It came on in the very later stages of the conversation. Did you notice that?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't understand it. What did you say?
I think Mr. Muhammad did.
What's that?
Mr. Muhammad.
That's correct.
Some time ago, there was a Ku Klux Klansman that called in, and you seem to recognize almost immediately that this guy was a member of the Klan.
I don't know, sir. I don't know if he was a member of the Klan. He was not invited to the studio.
That he was a member of the Klan.
Who's that, sir? Oh, are you talking about a caller or the
His
person
memory
that
is
came down?
failing him now. White people's memory conveniently failed them when it is necessary.
No, sir, I'm not really sure which person he's talking about.
Half an hour ago.
Oh, the person that called in on the program.
Yes.
Okay, yes, sir, that was true. He's a member of the Klan, and I repudiate the Klan. I think it's an evil organization.
But only after he admitted it, you had to ask him was he a member of the Klan.
You were agreeing with everything he said.
No, that's not true.
Mr. Muhammad almost immediately perceived that he was a member of the
Well,
Klan.
he's so much sharper than I. Appreciate your call this afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Let's move on. Kevin from Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. You're live on WVNN and the Sean Hannity program. Hello.
Hello.
We're running low on time this afternoon. Go ahead.
All right. I'd just like to start out by saying I'm only 16 years old. I go to Lawrenceburg High School here.
Yes, sir.
And I'm a white guy, and I associate mainly with the blacks at my school.
Yes, sir.
There's not a large group of them there, but what I wrote today is rather an interesting conversation. I'd like to say that in the past 400 years, as Mr. Muhammad said, the white race has been a low-down dirty dog to most of the other races, and today there is still some of that left over.
Sir, I think the racism, as I said on the program so many times, is morally reprehensible. I speak out against that on a regular basis. Roll your eyes here selectively, Mr. Muhammad. Go ahead, your final point here. We got a lot of people on the lines.
Well, see, I'm of a younger generation.
Yes, sir.
You understand that? And I believe that the only way that we can get rid of, to make the world a better place for tomorrow is that just forget about what we've done in the past and just let us,
You think they're living in the past? Is that what you're saying? They're bringing up things that long should be forgotten. We should now go forward?
He's quite capable of saying whatever he means. You don't have to tell him what he means.
For the purposes of time, I'm trying to get him to...
You're trying to get him, for the purposes of time, to say what you want him to say, sir.
Sir, he can speak for himself. Go right ahead, sir.
Alright. And now that we got one other race coming in, the black race, I mean,
right.
There's nothing wrong with standing up for what you believe in.
Oh, okay, so you support what he's saying here today?
You don't hasn't heard me say anything against. If you are one of the young whites, and you're 16,